Hey there, I'm Michelle, and welcome to the Leadership Growth Lab, the podcast where we ditch the leadership fluff and get into what actually works. If you're a new or emerging leader trying to figure out how to lead people without losing your mind or your integrity, you're in the right place. I've spent over 30 years leading teams, making mistakes, and learning the hard way so you don't have to. This isn't about motivational posters and feel-good quotes. This is real talk, real stories, and real strategies to help you become the leader you're meant to be. Let's get into it.
Well, hello, leaders. I've got a good one for you today. It's about balancing optimism and pessimism. What do I mean by that? So as leaders, we are typically bringing our teams through some sort of project, a change. It could be an initiative that either we started or that the company has put out in front of us. And we need to navigate that to the best of our abilities. And oftentimes this means we're taking our team into the unknown. We're taking our team into uncharted territory, if you will. And with that, there's a lot of variables. And I get asked a lot, like, how do you stay optimistic, but at the same time, be aware of all of the pitfalls, the things that can go wrong, and plan for those things in a positive way versus freaking your team out, right? So I've had to go through this several times through my career, but you don't know. I think that's the biggest thing is that you don't know how it's going to turn out. You are going to set your goals, and here's what I always do. I set lofty goals. I set very lofty goals where I have people in the room looking at me like she's crazy. That's when I know I've set my goal at the right level. The reason is it's because I know human nature. If I put the goal too low, then the team is just going to strive for that goal and they're not going to put as much effort into it. But if I put the goal a little too high and out of reach where it's unreasonable, then people are just going to be like, it's possible. I'm not even going to go down that route. So I put it in this delicate little window of where it's just out of reach, but could be possible. And then I have to paint in the could be possible, right? I have to show them how we can achieve this, what the strategy is behind it. And all of that comes from very strong optimism. Okay. But optimism is great when you have a strategy in place. That strategy is what is going to address those pitfalls, all the things that could go wrong. And you do have to ask yourself, what happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? What happens if this doesn't come through? What's the plan? And I always say that that's being the pessimistic part, right? It's not focusing on those things, but it's being aware of them and then building strategy that has contingency plans for if those things go off the rails. How do we shift? How do we adjust? How do we adapt as we move forward through this initiative, process, or goal? And that's where you as a leader have to really motivate your team. Now, your team, just trust me on this, 95% of your team is going to be on the pessimist side. Okay. First of all, if it's a change that you're initiating, they're going to be pessimistic automatically. We've covered this before. People don't like change, they're resistant to it. So they're going to automatically be resistant and pessimistic about the outcome. The other thing is that if you are setting a lofty goal, they're going to look at you and they look at you like you're crazy, right? Like, that's not possible. But now you are really selling them on your idea. You're selling them on here's what's possible. And then you're inviting them on the journey, right? You're saying, like, look at what's possible. Because they're going to like, well, what if it goes wrong? You're right. What if it goes wrong? That's a great question. Here's a strategy for how we're going to address that. But what if it goes right? what if it's everything that we're envisioning? What if this is what this picture I'm painting for you, this vision that I'm laying out in front of you? What if this actually is what we achieve? What does that feel? And you get them on board. You paint the vision. You bring them along and invite them along on this journey and understand that it's not going to be easy. There are going to be setbacks. There are going to be things that uh, cause mishaps, that cause delays. We are going to have times where we need to pivot, where we need to adjust, where we need to sidestep. All of those things are going to happen along this journey. But if we keep our eyes on this vision, if we keep our eyes on this goal, we can navigate through it. And we're going to plan for all of those things and even the things that we don't see coming, because that's a big one. Oftentimes, when you're leading an initiative, you can do your best to plan all of the contingencies out there, all of the things that can go sideways and wrong. And then there's that other thing that comes along that comes completely out of left field. You have no idea. It wasn't on your radar. So you have to be ready for those as well. And when those things happen, it's super important as a leader that you show your team how to positively navigate through. You show your team, this is okay. We understand. Like, we knew this was going to happen. We knew we were going to have some pitfalls, but here's what we're doing instead. So I'm getting ready now. We have a big event coming up next month. And I have an update meeting today to present to the team of where we're at. We have pretty much everything locked down, tied up with a bow, all of that. But I am going to talk internally to my internal planning team of what do we do if this happens? What do if we do if this cancels? What do we do if this falls through? So that's where I'm at now. We are building in, we're going to build up our backup plan. For instance, what happens if the DJ isn't available, falls out, something like that? That is a 100%. We have to have that element of this event. So we're going to have a backup DJ. We're going to have somebody that we can put on speed dial, pay whatever we need to pay, and get them there that morning if need be. We have some talents in place, and we're going to need to have some contingency plans around that as well. Those are going to be a little bit harder because it's going to be based on availability, and a lot of those things need to be booked in advance and paid for in advance. So I'm going to try to work some magic and see what we could do. Like, what is the backup plan? And with any of these things, it's like, what is the backup plan? So one thing that we didn't do well this year is we don't have a snow date, right? So next year, that is something that I've already allotted to the calendar is here's our date, here's our snow date, because I'm not playing around. I'm not playing around with this. It's too much work, time, energy, money has gone into it, resources, that this event needs to be successful. So we're at the point now of contingency planning, brainstorming for what happens if. Okay. That's not to be the naysayer. That's not to tell my team, like, oh my God, I think the sky's going to fall. No, 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 no. In fact, this shows your team that you are preparing for the worst, but expecting the best. So you're expecting that everything's going to go well, but you're preparing in case it doesn't. So how do you lead your team? How have you led your team or balance that optimism, pessimism throughout? Because as you know, negativity loves company. So how do you balance that? How do you avoid yourself from getting into kind of that negativity spiral, getting into that negativity panic, where you get maybe a little nervous, a little anxious? How do you keep that at bay to focus on the positive and build in contingency plans so that even if things go sideways, you have a backup plan? How do you handle that both in your process, and how do you handle that when working with your team? That is my topic for you today. I'd love to know how you have handled this. I want to know where you've recognized maybe that you were becoming a little too negative, a little too anxious around things, and how have you recognized that and then pivoted within your team? Let's get the conversation going. If you have other leadership questions, drop them in the show notes and comments. I would love to hear from you and share the show. I want to get this community going. I'm considering a Facebook group. So if that's something that you all would love, I am all down for it. And we can get in there and hash out some more fun leadership lessons. But that's what I have for you today, folks. Leaders, keep leading yourself and the rest will follow. Next time.
Thanks for hanging out with me today in the Leadership Growth Lab. If this episode resonated with you, do me a favor, share it with another leader who needs to hear it. Got a question or a leadership challenge you want me to tackle? Send it my way. I want to hear from you. Until next time, keep leading yourself first and the rest will follow.